Yo, so I got my man John B in the house.
What's going on, man?
Oh, it's great to see you. Welcome to myself, brother.
Great to see you, man. Great to be here in London, as always. You know.
So listen, I want to first of all say congratulations on an amazing career. I mean,
Thank you, sir.
I probably would have interviewed you quite a while ago,
Yeah.
but you know things are just sort of nice for you now. You've just actually done a sold-out show at the Kentish Town Forum
Yes,
with Donnell
yes.
Jones. How did that go for you?
Me and Donnell Jones. It was fantastic to see the fans out there, singing every word, and a sold out show, of course. Donnell did his thing, an incredible show as well, incredible response from the fans. So it's just lovely to see everyone just enjoying the music that we made 20 years ago, and still to this day, just like it just came out yesterday,
Yeah.
not missing a beat. And so, as a songwriter, that's what you want. You know what I mean? Firstly, foremost, as a songwriter, you want to see your songs last. And then as a performer, you hope that people still react to your efforts. And I'm definitely giving my all every time I step on stage, regardless. But, if you don't have that crowd that rocks with you, that shows that energy, and gives it back to you, then it's kind of makes it a little bit harder to give it to them. So last night was just an effortless night, man, where I just went with the flow, and as much love as I got twice much love back. And it just makes it easy and just a lovely time, man. So I enjoyed myself.
I can't speak for any other territory, but I know in the UK and certainly in London, where I'm from, I know you've got an abundance of love. You know what I mean? I know
this is
you've sold out the Jazz Cafe so many times.
So many times, yeah. It's like this one of my epicenters. This is where I charge my creative batteries, if you will. And there's not many places like that. I can honestly say, every single time, without any change, it's been the same every single time I've come to England. Every time I come to London, particularly London, I have to say London, because there's a difference between Birmingham, Manchester, and the type of love that they show. Big up them too as well. We love them as well. But London, y'all are most consistent, most just appreciative fan base that I have all around the world. I mean, honestly, I could go to New York, I can go to the Bay, and I can feel that same kind of energy. But it's like I have to match them to you guys, because you guys were the ones that you just supported, even when the records weren't being promoted right, when the records were sort of like my specialty records that were things that I was doing as like pleasure side projects. Y'all embrace those as well, and like you just told me about my B-sides project right now.
I want to talk about that.
Thank you, man.
I don't know how long you've got, but I mean, I always want to do this kind of thing chronologically, because you've just had some amazing success, some amazing music. Your albums from Bonafide, 95.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
Man. Thank you, bro.
It's just a fantastic opportunity for me to sort of touch down and talk to you about all of that. So 24 years in the game. I mean, Bonafide came out in 95, was just saying.
Yeah.
So that's an incredible achievement in itself.
It's wonderful, and then the new album is coming out too. We just finished the new album. It's going to be, the first single is coming out in April, featuring Donnell Jones.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful thing to collaborate with the likes of someone like him, because we have a very parallel walk. We've both been 24 years in the game, and I feel like we have a similar sentiment. He's an emotional guy. I'm an emotional guy. We're grown men, not afraid to express our feelings and to say how we feel. In a day and age where a lot of it is slick talk and mostly on the surface. We're trying to go into the heart and get back into pull on some heartstrings again. You know what I mean? So the song is called Understand, and April, you can see it sometime in April, hear it sometime in April. Video shot very soon. We're going to shoot the video. And as well as you can even expect a tour from this probably. We're always speaking of setting up a tour right now. So we're in the process of setting all that up.
Do you know what? I'd love to hear. I can't wait to hear that record. Because when I found out you guys, it's like the R&B Icons tour that you've been doing so far in the UK. When I heard you two were doing it together, you and Donnell, I was like, that just works.
It really does, man. I mean, it's exciting to know that, the guy behind the name Donnell Jones is just as humble as, the guy behind the name John B, which is me, and I'm trying to really keep it that way, keep people knowing that I appreciate the place that y'all put me, because I wasn't put here by myself. I was put here by y'all, the listeners, who decided that the music was good enough, and the DJs who decided the music was good enough to play, man, and good enough to support and go out and buy, whatever. So, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we don't take it for granted any day that we could be somewhere else raising our kids, you know, doing something else to make a
Yeah.
living, but let alone we're doing what we love. This is our dream. So we appreciate you.
All right. Well, you know what? I think I want to go to. Well, first of all, before we play the first track, it'll be lovely to sort of talk about where you're from. You was born in Rhode Island, is that right?
Yeah. I was born in Rhode Island, but raised on the West Coast. So I'm glad to say I'm a Cali boy. But you know,
what was it like growing up there?
Yeah, you know, California's cool. It's a, you know, we got the beach and we have the mountains. So aesthetically, it's very pleasing. You know, it's a lot to experience if you've come over from, you know, if you come over the pond and you come check us out, man. You know, it's a vast landscape, you know, a lot of variety. But one thing that I feel like I love so much about London, it's almost like not a city, it's like a town. You come into this vibe that exists. It's like you can find a little nook here and there, even though there's tons of people going. You know, you can always find a little quiet nook or a street or something, and to feel yourself think. You know, to hear yourself think, and I love that. I do truly appreciate that about the aesthetic of London town. Everything from the sky and the way the sky looks to the trees, you know, even the way that just your accent and the people speak is so beautiful. So I feel inspired here, you know, and I think at times you got to get away from your normal environment, kind of change it up, you know, and then you might get some thoughts brewing in your head that you don't normally have, you know. I know I come home usually from a trip to, you know, to England or London, and I feel instantaneously like I want to go into the studio and start creating.
So you said earlier on that, you know, when you come here, it kind of recharges your creative batteries.
That's right, bro.
You would just look around and just, whether it's going shopping or performing, you want to get back in.
I mean, hey, I'm looking at the new, you know, sneakers and the, you know, you know, everybody's tracksuits and like, okay, that's how y'all rocking right now. All right, that's what's up, you know. And y'all are always a little bit ahead of the scene with fashion and everything. So yeah, it's very, very cool.
You're talking about the accents. I don't know about I'm an East London boy, do you know what I mean? So I don't know if you'd appreciate that accent for too long. Listen, it seems to me, John, that you didn't really have much choice but to get into music, because I was reading, doing a little bit of research on you, and your dad was is a music professor, is that right? And your mum, concert pianist. Brother plays the cello, sister plays the violin.
Look, you know your facts,
dude. I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean?
That's fantastic.
It sounds to me like you had no choice.
Yeah, it was pretty much, you know, there's athletic families who, you know, they play basketball, play football, whatever. So you have your son who comes up and plays ball. You know, it's a trait that's handed down, but at the same time, this wasn't particularly handed down in the same way that my brothers and my sisters got it. They took on the classical side. I was the black sheep of the family I got straight into R&B right away.
Yeah.
I remember hearing the UNICEF for Africa record back in like 1980, 1981. I had like Donna Summer, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Bee Gees, Rod Stewart, all these iconic artists on one record, and they all played live. And that is sort of like my entrance to like my whole philosophy of music, that music is just music, man, you know, and you could be whatever race, you could be whatever style, music is music. So, you know, from the very beginning, I was hearing R&B music, but I didn't know it was R&B.
Right.
I just thought the Bee Gees was just the Bee Gees, right? You know, I didn't know Jive Talking was, or you know, or Staying Alive, or any of these records were More Than a Woman, or, you know, Too Much Heaven, any of these Bee Gees records that was called R&B. Because I heard Isley Brothers and it sounded the same, or it sounded similar, or, you know, Earth, Wind and Fire, and having kind of like this similar sound, and no one told me this is R&B. So I grew up basically just thinking music was music until probably middle school, when groups like New Edition came out, and you know, groups like Troop, who are from my hometown of Pasadena.
Troop, wow.
Yeah, you know, and it started to be this racial divide in terms of like, oh, you know, black people listen to this and white people listen to this, and it was like, what in the world is this? Like, I listened to it all. So I listened to Duran Duran and, you know, Isley Brothers, and so it's and so it was very refreshing to kind of be myself in the instance in a time where everything was sort of very racially divided. I felt like I was just being myself, and because of that, it shocked people, and that in a sense was the reason why at first I feel like I became sort of like a name that people kind of recognized right away. They were like, "Oh, that's that white boy who sings with Babyface." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say, did you turn a lot of heads? Was there a lot of kind of shocks as to when they heard your music and then they saw you? It was like, oh my days, like this guy is he's a white dude.
Yeah, absolutely. That was because I was the first of my kind. In terms of like really claiming R&B music and noting Babyface as my my main primary influence and producer as well. At the time, so. Yeah, it felt good to be a trailblazer in that instance.
Okay, so it was Tracy. Was it Tracy Edmonds at first? So how did that connection happen? Because obviously, you would have been sort of starting off in the game, writing and stuff like that. How did Tracy Edmonds discover you and therefore, make that move into working with Babyface?
Sure. Well, Tracy was Babyface's wife at the time, and basically she had her label Yab Yum Entertainment, which was also Babyface's label, but I had no idea. I just knew about LaFace, so I was dropping off my demo to various record companies. Motown, which was one of them, Warner Brothers was one of them, and MCA was one of them, and Yab Yum was on the list too. So I dropped my CD off there, and I went to go meet at Motown Records at MCA to go talk to them about a deal, and I'm in the office of the Motown executive, and Babyface calls the office and says, "There was a gentleman in your office, I believe, named Jonathan B." And he goes, "Yeah. What are you're not calling to talk to me? You want to talk to the guy I'm interviewing right now?" And he says, "Yeah, well, please send him over to my office as soon as he's done." So I said, "Oh my God!" He said, "Go ahead, get out of here, man. I'm not gonna sign you. I already know Babyface is gonna sign you." So
wow.
He sent me out of his office, and I said, "Thanks, man, for your time." And I quickly ran over to the building, and of course, Tracy Edmonds opens the door. She's this gorgeous, beautiful woman, and meeting Babyface was like meeting, the gates of heaven opening up. It's just like, it's for me, I was such a huge fan of his and tried to emulate his style, his production style, learning his chord progressions, and try to really emulate that as much as possible. I think every true artist starts with a template of someone else's sort of way of doing things, and they learn their own style by learning their style first. And so that's the story behind Babyface and Tracy. They both were my mother and father figure for a long time in my career, completely looking over every aspect of, everything from my look to my sound and everything. Really?
Did they kind of help you with the style and everything? Because you got a trademark.
Well, you know what? That was me. That the trademark, which is known as my look right now. Not anymore. I don't have the Caesar anymore and the thin beard and all that. But yeah, that was all me. That I was actually my rebellious nature that went against everything they wanted, which they wanted me to grow out my hair long and have the George Michael appeal. You know what I mean?
Right.
But even George Michael cut his hair off, right? And had the Caesar too. So yeah, so I was doing kind of like what was naturally happening. And I always had a buzz anyway and a fade, up through high school. So kind of I was, by the Cool Relax album, I was returning to my roots and what I was about anyway. But yeah, they tried to get me to dye my hair and all that.
Yeah. Well, Someone to Love on the Bonafide album. I mean, how was that? That must have been a buzz.
That's the entrance to the old, the whole thing is the fact that I was able to do a duet with Babyface as my first record is really. I mean, it's too good to be true to even to think about, because who gets to do that? You usually have to earn your own, weight as an artist, and then
Absolutely.
you get to collaborate with the heavyweights. But yeah, this was something that he saw something in me that he really wanted to endorse, and I truly am grateful to this day.
Amazing. John B in the house, the big R&B show, My Soul Radio. I'm gassed, man, to be sort of chatting to you. It's a beautiful moment.
Well, my brother.
You know what I mean? So we've gone from Bonafide to, you mentioned Cool Relax, which was your second album. Yeah. Are You Still Down?
Yeah,
They Don't Know. I mean, moments on that album. How did your approach change from making Bonafide to Cool Relax?
I was a lot more confident on Cool Relax and about showing the real R&B side. I was a lot more experimental and very, very eclectic on Bonafide. You had you had R&B moments, but it was definitely an R&B album. But I felt like, bringing Bootsy Collins on the album and featuring kind of like a funky Parliament kind of vibe on the, one of the first songs on the album, Simple Melody. I originally wrote that song for Michael Jackson, but he thought it was too retro. He told me himself. He called me on the phone. We were managed by the same manager, and he called me up right after I sent it to him. He says, "I love the record, John, and you're very charming, but I think it's a little bit too retro for me." And I said, "Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for calling, man. It's such an honor to speak to you." No, but that album was incredible. To just even have the audacity to be an artist at that time was really the challenge with Bonafide, to do it for the first time. Second time, the album, you feel a little bit more. You're on your feet are planted on the ground. You kind of know who you are at that time. So it's hence the reason why I buzzed my hair off and started doing me, And I think the song "Don't Say," "They Don't Know," "Are You Still Down?" Those are all reflections of, "I Do What You Say, Boo." Those are all reflections of what I was going through at the time. I was just getting into my first serious relationship, which was my first wife, and first divorce as well. Well, only divorce. I've been married 12 years now to my current wife, and we have 2 children.
Congratulations,
Very
that's
happy.
lovely, man.
And thank you. And but that was the beginning of that entire journey, the beginning of that walk. And I had no idea what was coming around the corner, but let alone that was the innocence of that time. It was, I'd be on the road and my girl would call me up and she'd say, "I heard that you was messing around, blah blah blah," and I'd say, "Listen, man, you can't listen to what people say." Yeah, literally, like I was, so I put it, rather than put it and try to say it to her, I went into the booth and I put that down so it could last forever, And I'm grateful for moments like that, as well as the moment with Tupac, of course. Are You Still Down?
Definitely want to reflect on that very soon, but I think I'd love it to play the track. I had this on a 12, and then a remix came out of it, "They Don't Know."
Yeah.
So I'm just going to probably play both of those
For
back to back, the
sure,
original album version
That's
and
right.
the remix. John B in the house, my soul, the Big R&B show. Let's play "They Don't Know." Yeah. "They Don't Know" from the incredible Cool Relax album. I've got John B in the house. It's a beautiful thing, man. You know what I mean? So you just talked about, sort of speaking to Michael Jackson. You've written for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
You've written for Tony Braxton. Worked with Tang. So many people. Luther Vandross, Grown Things. I mean,
Yeah,
dude,
okay,
dude,
man. Yeah, you know what's so cool
crazy.
about Luther was we was at Soul Train Awards or AMA, something like that, and we were backstage. I remember meeting Alicia Keys and D'Angelo, and being, oh my God! And then here comes Luther Vandross. I go, "Luther."
Yeah.
He goes, "John B."
Wow.
And he says to me my name just the same way, "John B." And he goes, "I want to work with you, man." And I was like, "Yo, are you kidding me? We got to make this happen." So I actually went and had a meeting with Clive Davis very soon after that in his office. And Clive told me, he said, "Well, this record that you've given me, Grown Things, is the first single." I said, "Really?" And he said, "How much do you want for this?" And I told him my number, and he said, "Yes." He didn't say, "Well, we'll think about it." He said, "Yes."
Wow.
It's the most I've ever been paid for a record. And at the same time, it wasn't about the money. It was about the opportunity. And this is still one of my favorite singers of all time, Luther Vandross. I'll never forget it, man.
One of the greatest to ever do it, of course. No doubt about it. What a tune. And we're working with all those people. Is it who out there, maybe in the current climate of sort of soul music, R&B, I mean, who would you like to work with now? I mean, you just said you're working with Donnell, but maybe from this time now.
Well, I was just with my boy Tank and Genuine in Oakland. We did a sold out show out there, man, and we was all backstage. And Genuine is like my boy for years. We were label mates back, signed same time, Epic Records.
Yep.
Both had platinum records. We've toured the world. We've been. There's not a lot of places we haven't been. Well, Genuine's probably been more places than I have. but that being said, we got the heart. The heart's the same. We appreciate it the same. We love what we do.
Yeah.
And he still looks like he's 25 up there dancing and doing all those moves and and I appreciate that. I'm not the same type of artist. I'm more of a play behind the keyboards and I'm a croon for you, behind the microphone. But I'm not much of a dancer, but yeah. But as far as Tank, you know, vocally, he was an incredible influence on me.
Yeah.
He helped me on my Stronger Every Day album in 2004. We have a duet called Stronger Every Day, and a song Lately, which was written by him. And,
dude, Lately, I want to talk to you about that album.
Yeah.
We haven't even got to Pleasures You Like.
Yeah.
You know, Genuine was on a reality show over here.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, the whatever it was,
Big Brother, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so. You know, they've asked me over and over to be on those things.
Really?
I have to turn them down every time.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, my reality show is my records. So you got to say that's the reality.
Love that. All right, so let's get to Pleasures You Like. I mean, that album spawned the hit Don't Talk. I mean, Coco Brown, when you do that, I've seen you at Jazz
Coco,
Cafe many times.
yeah.
You do Coco Brown, incredible.
That's Camden. You know, that was written in Camden.
Was
in
it?
Soul to Soul Studios, which is you know, Jazzy B from Soul to Soul. He has a studio in Camden, and he was nice enough to let me use his room and record in that. And it was such an incredible experience because Jazzy is Jamaican, and so is Karen Wheeler, and they both came through, and we have jerk chicken together and rice and peas, and we're just chilling at the table and having a nice dinner together. You know, it has nothing to do with music. We're just being, just cool, just chilling. And so just to be able to put faces to people that I had so much admiration for was great. And that really inspired me to go in to the studio and write this song called Coco Brown, which is, you know, it's like my ode to the woman that supported me all these years, you know, and just kind of like sheds a little light about what I feel is so special about my Coco Brown woman, you know what I mean? Which is my wife, I want to let you know.
All right.
And every woman that I've ever been blessed enough to be able to just share this energy with, you know, which we coincide together, man. We really blend, and we know why we make sense. And who cares what the world says? You know what I mean? And so I feel like a lot of people know what I'm talking about when I talk about, you know, kind of like writing a theme song of appreciation for your woman, you know what I mean? And so that's my way of saying thank you to my Coco Brown, you know, audience out there, you know, because I know my audience is a little bit different than the average audience. I know who's really out there buying my records, who's really coming to the shows, who's really showing up, you know, and so I want to individualize those people and let those people know, look, you specifically, I appreciate you. You know
and the beautiful thing about what you've done and continue to do since, you know, your first album Bonafide to this day is you've kept it absolutely soulfully and R&B pure.
Thank you,
You know what I mean?
Thank
You've
you.
never
I've
kind of
tried.
gone, I want to work with a David Guetta or, you know, no disrespect to those guys.
You know, if I wanted to do a house beat, I would produce it myself, you know. And
Well, you've done
which
it
is
on the
not-
B-sides, which is-
you know, which is you know, probably not my diehard fans' favorite stuff, but I think that if you can rock with me, you know, and understand that I'm just like all over the place with my music. You know, I'm really I have a very vast, eclectic taste in music, so I kind of want to do it all. You know, you might hear a rock record from John B in the future. You know, and it's not to say that I'm gonna jettison my or leave my you know, my R&B fans, but I just feel like I should evolve and change and do whatever I want to do as an artist.
Yeah.
And as it's up to you as the fans to decide whether you dig it or not. But that's not going to limit me in my efforts and my you know sort of my the things that I'm curious about. You know, I feel like it's all just experimentation, and I can always go back to the old formulas and always, you know, sort of revisit things, revisit feelings. But it's another thing to sort of like experiment and try new things and see what works. Yeah.
But even if you were to deviate from the R&B thing, I just get the feeling a John B record, even if it was a rock record, would have elements of soul.
Oh, it's
Do you know what
got
I
to
mean?
have a soul thing,
that's
man.
my
I'm going
point,
to tell you
really.
right now, everything I do is going to have soul in it, period. But I mean, you know, I gets down with it all, man. I mean, you know, when I'm at home, I'm listening to everything from Donnell Jones to Queens of the Stone Age.
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
It's all around. It's there's no limitation, and I don't feel like we should limit ourselves. I feel like we're everything at the same time, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Coco Brown, we're going to play those tracks back to back then, Coco Brown and also Don't Talk. When we come off the other side of that, we have to talk about that record because what a banger that was. John B in the house, My
Let's get
Soul
it.
family, get ready for this one. This is an anthem, Don't Talk on My Soul.
Let's get it.
It's the Big R&B Show, My Soul Radio. My special guest in the house, Jon B. And we just played You Don't Talk from the album Pleasures You Like. That album, that tune, at that moment, massive. Monster records.
Let me tell you something.
Video was,
the video
big.
was fun. It was a good time. The apple martini was a new drink. Brand new. We were innovating. No, I mean, and we were making plenty of those on the video set, and we were having a good time. Lots of beautiful women. My boy RL from Next came down and blessed the video.
Right.
My producers Tim and Bob from They Don't Know came and blessed the video. They were in the video. It was a great time, and I remember particularly London being very open off that record. Like I would go to clubs out here, and we really would pop the champagne bottle, the Magnum champagne bottles, and the DJ be playing it back to back with the Fat Man Scoop. Ow, ow, ow. You know what I mean? And it was a movement. It was a real, real fun time for me, man. And still is. When the song comes on now, it feels the same, and it's lovely to see people still jamming to it too. Like I'll go to clubs and literally see people still.
It's a timeless classic, and you had there was that era. Don't Talk came out. You had You Know What's Up with Donnell. Next, talking about that, they had Wifey, Too Close, Jaheim, Just in Case. There was that kind. It was almost sort of pre-Steppers kind of vibe.
That's right.
What I mean?
And that's the reason why classics. That's why RL was in the video, because they're Next was sort of like my inspiration behind that record. When I heard Too Close, I wanted to make a bounce rock skate record.
Okay.
And plus I'm a big fan of like producers like DJ Quick, who always made bounce rock skate records. And that was sort of like,
let's
easy
get down.
for me.
Let's get down. That shit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come on, let's get down. That's like very, very. It's easy and fun to make records like that. Yeah, I think I wrote that record probably in about 20 minutes.
Seriously, groove, man. I want to move over to, like I said, I wanted to do this chronologically because I just wanted to talk. You such a great body of work. Stronger Every Day. You've already mentioned that album. I think could be a candidate for my favourite Jon B album.
What?
Because there was just
big up, man.
Incredible moments on it. It almost felt you was kind of pulling in more hip hop on that as well. You had Dermot McGirt, the late great ODB on there as well. Lately, working with Tank. I mean, just moments on it that was unbelievable.
Beanie Man.
One more, Beanie Man as well with that track, and One More Dance is just. Steppers for real.
Two steppers. Man.
You know what I mean? So talk us through the area, making that album.
Well, Stronger Every Day was definitely an incredible album. I love that album. It's a very soulful album. Very, very, a lot of different areas to check out on that album. A lot of variety of music, but it's a very R&B album. And hip hop, But I think that I was also kind of like getting a lot of sentiments out that I had never really said before with a song like Through the Fire, which was, featuring Scarface.
Yeah.
And it was very telling in terms of the turmoil that I had been through a fire in my studio. I lost all my studio equipment to a fire.
Wow.
Everything that I owned from childhood, 13 on, man, I collected and saved up for, and the sounds, all of the precious sounds and all of the archives of all my music, all gone in one instance.
Not backed up anywhere.
Not backed up, man. I think the only thing that I had was a few discs upstairs from like an old sampler that I had. It's like I had to start from ground zero, basically. And to do an album after that process was definitely a challenge, and at the same time, very, very freeing for me to write a song that sort of expressed the angst and the worry that I felt at that time. And also just to be able to like collaborate with Scarface. He brought the real. His voice is so dramatic and so authentic in itself. It's like having a preacher almost on your joint. You know what I mean? Like say a little mini sermon. So yeah, he blessed me with that, and I told him what the struggle was. I went through divorce at the time. I went through fire. I went through label changes. So a lot going on in my life, man.
Yeah,
so that's what you really hear in that album is me freeing myself from all that drama, and putting it in creatively, putting it into something good. You know?
I guess hence the title "Stronger Every Day." You have to get stronger every day, going through those trials and tribulations of life.
Which actually featured Tank on the. It was a duet between myself and Tank, which is so collaboratively. I think that's the most features I've ever had on an album, and definitely one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
noticeable, but no, man. For me, like I said, I can almost definitely just have that on in the car, just leave it running, whatever I'm doing. It's just a great piece of work.
Thank you. And when it comes to like one more dance and stuff, like I was really inspired by "Step in the Name of Love" for that.
Right.
I was just taking it back to like I remember the first time I ever went to a steppers club in Chicago. I didn't know what stepping was, so I was out on the floor actually dancing. Everybody started doing the step, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I was sitting there like, okay, I don't even know like. So I just left the floor and I just watched them, and the coordination of everyone together moving in a similar way, but they all had their own style flipping it. That to me, I took that with me. I said, I'm making that mine. Like now I've seen the real. That's all I need.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make music for these people. So that's who I want to make the song "One More Dance" for. It was for my Chicago steppers and my Detroit steppers. Anybody who's out there two-stepping a couple want to, twist it up a little bit.
Well, I think we should play that, John.
All right, let's get
Let's get into that One More Dance. Definitely one of my favourites out there. Even now, can play that in a dance.
It's a baseline record.
You know what I mean?
This is getting back to my chic, my chic influence, Bernard Edwards, and the good stuff, man.
Okay, let's run it. John B in the house.
One more dance.
Yeah, one more dance, dude.
This is it, baby.
This is
it. Get it.
All right, so it's My Soul, your boy Ronnie H in the house, linking up with John B, special guest. We just played you the track One More Dance from the album Stronger Every Day, and I can't hear that enough, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Helpless Romantic, Comfortable Swag. You've been prolific with your album, your writing over the years, and I guess, you just explained before we played One More Dance, talking about Stronger Every Day, what made you get that album together. I suppose that helps you deal with stuff as well. Just it gets it out there on record. A lot of people would suppress that, and they'd channel their energies into something else.
Yeah, no, I had to put it into the music because of course, the depression, the sadness, all of that'll set in. But if you have something to fall back on that makes you feel good, like okay, I put all that energy and made something with it. Yeah, and so it's lasted forever, and it'll always be something I can come back to and remember that time of my life. If you can go through that, then you can go through some more hardship and be strong. Strong too,
So how do you just keep that inspiration? That would have been what inspired Stronger Every Day. As a singer-songwriter, how do you keep the creative juices flowing? How I mean, you said you come to London and you came to the UK.
This would be one of the reasons. No, honestly, the fans, the shows help to charge me up on a level of knowing that there's people out there that are supporting, that are waiting to listen to whatever that I had ready for them. But the challenge is to make sure that I'm good with the music, that I'm happy with the music enough to be able to release it. Because once it's out, it's out. You don't get to take it back. And so that's been the challenge. And it's taken me quite some time now to finish this album because I wanted to really be able to like match up to the other albums and be able to hold up in its own way. Be like the strongest album that I've done in a really long time. So, sometimes that process takes a little longer than we like. But, if I didn't wait, if I wasn't patient, I would have never had the Donnell collaboration.
Yeah.
Probably never would have had a lot of the material that exists on the album. But one thing I did do with this album that's different is I brought some joints that I did from years back, being that they had a certain element that, was crucial to that time. And I felt it really worked. So I brought those back and I updated the tracks and I updated the vocals and I updated the production. And I made it now. And it just sounds so fresh and innovative because it doesn't sound like everything else right now. It kind of has its own fingerprint. So, yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see people react to this album and be able to give this to my fans. It's almost like I don't have to wonder whether they're going to like it. Now, I really know this is going to be just fulfilling the expectation, that's the main thing. It's like if you miss me, I'm gonna be back very soon, baby.
Listen, I look forward to that. But the current sort of sounds out there, there's a lot of electronic soul that's kind of taking over, whether it's Radioland, Clubland, technology, the consummation of R&B, how that's conceived. Does that change your approach to making a new album?
We have to update with the times, man. You know,
Right.
you can't keep the sound selection the same. You got to get your drums like a little bit more up to date in terms of like, you know, if I want to have a song that has like a trappish element to it, but I'm not jettison my, you know, my foundation.
Yeah.
So my hi-hats might be a little bit up to date.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With the trappish rolls and whatnot, you know. And all that, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we add that to like something that feels like a 90s groove.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Something like they don't know. You know what I mean? And so we're kind of meeting both worlds. And one thing I don't want to do is be contrived in that sense of like trying to fit into people's, you know, sound, or try to do something that doesn't feel like I can own it for myself. But there's really no style of music I don't feel like I could own for myself or adapt to, make it work for me. But let alone like right now, it took a little bit of time to be able to find the balance of like how to keep it innovative and new and fresh without repeating myself. But at the same time, there are some old formulas that just work for me that people expect to hear again. So let's include those. Let's not include them. You know what I mean? So kind of meeting both worlds together and meshing them together.
Well, like, I know you've kept the sounds. You've always kept the sounds moving, Matt. Who's So Sexy from the Helpless Romantic album? That tune with Paul
Cheers,
Wall,
Paul Wall,
boy.
man. All right.
You know what I mean? Always love that record.
Thank you.
You know, Keep It Real with Jay-Z and Coco.
Oh,
Dude,
crap, man.
man,
Wow,
that's what I'm
okay.
saying. Those moments that you brought to us.
Jay-Z came in the
Yeah.
studio and heard that track. I did that track. I'm a big Premier fan.
Right.
Primo, you know, and from Gangstar and whatnot. You know, if you're a hip hop head, you know who Primo is.
Of course.
So yeah, that was sort of like he had the bells and the side sticks and different things that he would add to the beat to give it a groove. And so I kind of try to show a little of that influence on that record. And when it definitely had an East Coast thing to it. So when Jay-Z heard the track, he just I just remember him sitting there for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, listening to the track over and over right in front of me. And he's like, all right, I'm ready. I'm going to come back tomorrow and spit my verse. So I was like, okay. We came back in. He literally went into the booth. It happened one time.
Yeah.
That record
He's
is
known
a
for
one
that, isn't he?
take.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just, there it is. I was like, man, thank you.
There's a Jay Dilla thing about that record. I just feel like
Jay Dilla's a huge influence. He's another person I have to.
Yeah.
That's probably even more of an influence on that record than Primo. Come on, you
know
took
what
the
I'm
words
saying?
right out of
There
my
you
mouth,
go,
man.
brother.
Come
There
on,
you
give me
go.
a pound on that. Jay
Boom.
Dilla, man. Rest
You know
in
what I
peace to the homie for sure, man.
And talking about that Jay Dilla-esque vibe that is, but is signature John B.
Slum Village, huge
Slum
fan
Village.
of them. You know what I'm saying? Like Jay Dilla, his bounce, like his swing. You know, I adopted that. That's part of my lineage. You know, so records like Keep It Real. They completely show that. You know, it's a great thing to work with Coco too, because I was such a huge SWV fan.
yeah.
You know, and her vocals, like her runs, I always paid attention to it. You know, so she influenced me too. You know, to think melodically the way that she does. One of my favorite songs is "Use Your Heart, Not Your Eyes."
Yeah.
That's a fantastic record, and she's always been someone I wanted to collaborate with. So I'm glad we got a chance to do it. But I had no idea that we were gonna have Jay-Z on there. That was like the fantastic bonus on top of everything. You know?
Once again, another absolute classic, and have to play that record. If I'm doing like a vibe around a kind of 90, 94, 96
right, back
BPM.
when he was Jigga.
exactly. I'm not going to keep you for too much longer, John, because I know that you're out there and you kind of, you got to do your promo, and I know you got to move around.
Thank you, man. This has
tour.
been live, though. This interview has been real, bro.
Oh, man.
Appreciate it.
I hope you've enjoyed it, because
Yes,
you can
I
tell
have.
I'm a real fan.
Yes,
so,
sir, man.
you know,
I don't get to always have an interview with such, in depth. You know what I mean? Thank you.
That's
for
cool,
this,
man. So before we talk a little bit more, finishing off on the album that you got coming, I just want to talk to you before we play one track that you did.
Yeah.
Watching Her. Dude.
Oh, wow.
Dude.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's the Jay Dilla influence again.
Again.
You know,
Because that leaked. I got that on. It leaked, and I got it, and I was like, "Well, I think the intro was kind of slightly cut off." I was like, "Well, I can't really use that." But then you put it on the B-sides thing in its entirety.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Thank goodness for
you
that."
know,
I
it
can
got
now play
leaked,
that.
and it's funny how records will be floating around, record labels that you turn in records to the record label, and then they kind of have the label in their they have the record in their archive. But that will be copied by people who work for the label, and
Yeah.
now they don't work for the label.
Is that how it gets out? I've always wondered how those records
yeah,
get
yeah,
leaked.
yeah.
Just
So it's like, I have a copy of that record, and I'm gonna put it on the internet. So it's like, okay, you know, and that person, you know, they don't realize that, you know, they're sort of
jeopardizing
like
sales and stuff.
jeopardizing the record itself from being, you know. But I look at, like, there's two types of payment, you know, in this thing. You can make cash from it, or you can you can change somebody's day and make a smile, like, be like, yo, that's my favorite song, yo, or
Yeah.
that's one of my jams. And that's payment to me, man, literally.
Yeah.
Or as you say, literally. You know what I mean? No, but I'm saying, though, it's real. I mean, you know, the love, I live for this love of this music, man. Not only just my love, but y'all love, you know, your guys' love, you know, and it's very, very apparent to me that if it's not there, it changes the way that I do my music. You know, if the love's not there, it's gonna change everything. So, yeah, no, thank yourselves for being the reason why I have the energy behind my music. If I didn't have the support that I have, man, I wouldn't be able to continue to do what I do and love. You know.
Well, listen, I'm glad you did put out that B-sides, which was tracks that were unreleased previously, and
Yeah.
you know, continue to do that, because obviously, like you said before, you know, you might experiment on tracks that, you know, might not make an album. You have an album coming out. That is great news for us as R&B lovers, as Jon B fans as well. So, what do you want to tell your hardcore fans and new fans of your music about the forthcoming project?
If you miss R&B music as it sounded in the 90s, if you miss songwriting that's about romance, it's about real lovemaking, it's about things that really pertain to real relationships from a grown ass man. You know, basically, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm a grown man and proud of it. If you want to hear that, then check this new album out. It's called Understand. You know, you will understand the energy, the difference between myself and others, you know, and at the same time, I think it's just keeping the tradition alive of what it is that I do, which is writing real songs, you know. And it's most importantly, rather than being remembered for my artistry, I want to be remembered for my songwriting. The fact that I said certain things that other people were sort of afraid or shy to say, or too slick to say, too cool to say, you know. I want to be the guy that said it. So, yeah, just if you need to soften up a little bit, you need to slow it down a little bit, definitely think about your boy, because we know them streets is ratchet. We know where everything else is existing. It is already there. We got that 10 times over. But what is lacking right now is that making love music, that music you could play for your mama, for your children, you know what I mean? And just live your life to it, man.
Timeless. On that note, it's going to be called Understand. When can we expect it?
You can expect the single to drop in April, y'all.
All right.
Myself featuring Donnell Jones. Track is called Understand, produced by yours truly, written by yours truly. All right.
John, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
coming
man.
in, man. It's been a real pleasure and
Cheers, it's
an
been my
honour
pleasure.
to see you again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
And good luck
Same
with the
here.
rest of the tour as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys.